And welcome again to another episode of the Unbiased Truth Podcast. Today's episode is another Because Real Estate podcast episode where we talk about singular topics affecting real estate or those topics that can help us in real estate and just the industry. And I'm joined once again by Christy Bacon, team leader of Move Virginia.
That's right.
Powered by Keller Williams.
That's right. Got to say that too.
That's right. So today we're going to talk about, since we are recording this in December, it'll probably come out in January after the first of the year. Courtney doesn't forget about it. Sticks to the schedule. December, November, December, into January is typically a slow time. In real estate, traditionally, last couple of years, not as slow, but
right.
But I think this year we've got more of a traditional slowdown. So just want to talk about what do people do during this time of year to start planning for 2023 for, marketing, their goal setting, strategic planning. One of the things that I found interesting, forget. See, one of the things that I found interesting was there was a mastermind session not too long ago, and there's been a couple of them around popping up, but this one had about 80 or 90 agents, and I think the question was posed something along the lines of, do you know how much money you actually made last year? Or, and like there was a shockingly high number of people that did not know.
That
right?
is crazy.
So people don't know where their money's going. They don't know what their splits are. They don't know, how much their broker's taking. If they're a team, how much their team's taking. So if they don't know how much they're making, then how efficient are they actually planning out, right?
Right.
If you don't know how much money you're spending on leads and marketing, you're just throwing money at it. And at the end of the year, you just hope for the best.
Right.
And I think in both industries, as an agent and in home inspections, I think one of the things that they lack is the business side of it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's easy to become an agent, right? It's easy to become a home inspector. You take the class, pass the test, here you go and do great things. But neither one of them actually have a business component, and both industries are designed, for better or worse, that as soon as you get your license, you can just be on your own.
Go.
Right. You don't have to apprenticeship. You don't have to
join
anybody. You have a broker, but you're still on your own. So people don't understand that you are a business. They don't approach it that way. So does all that sound about right?
It's very true. In fact, even when you get your license and you go through like new agent orientation, it's just, there's nothing about the business side of it. Nothing at all. And I would say for us in the past 3 years, we've really focused on the 4 models, which to me, I didn't even think anything about them until recently. So, and it's hard because at first you're like, well, I don't even know how to separate what I'm making from what I need to not spend and what I need to save for taxes. And so my general rule of thumb was always like my first and second year, I wasn't the breadwinner, so that was big, but I just literally put 50% away.
Right.
And that then allowed me to have my money for taxes and money to put back into the business the following year. Mm-hmm. And then when you make that scary first hire, which is like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to afford this person? I'm now responsible. Will I bring in enough deals?
Yeah.
You know how it goes. I felt like because I had saved that money the year prior, their salary was already like there. Yeah. So I knew that if I didn't do what I had done last year, at least I had their salary taken care of.
Yeah, for me, my first hire was pretty easy, and it really wasn't that stressful because it was Gordon, and we had zero overhead, right? I mean, because he was planning to do it on his own, so he had bought a bunch of stuff already. So,
that's nice.
So I still had to round that out a little bit, and software subscriptions, but that was really about it. So it was like you get paid if you do home inspections. Now when we merged with NPI, then all of a sudden there's actual salaries attached to that. That's and yes, marketing like what Courtney does generate revenue, right? But at the end of the day, when you're looking at it, you're like, when Todd and Gordon's out there, if they're getting paid, because they're literally making me money. They're collecting money on site, to where, the office staff is just not as visible that way.
Right.
You know, you hope that they're making you money, but it's hard to track and be comfortable with that, you know? So now you start stressing about that. Yeah. That's fun.
And then they'll offer a class that's like tax tips and tricks.
Mm-hmm.
But then what? Like, that's it. Like, so you go to this class that your association will offer, and then you're like, okay, so what now? What do I do? Like, I know I'm a business owner and I probably should talk to my CPA, but like, where do we meet in the middle of all this?
Yeah. And then, you know, there's do I do LLC? Is it an S Corp?
Right.
There's C Corp, you know? When do I change from one to the other? What does all that mean?
Right.
Should I have my own LLC, or do I just do it under my name?
Right.
You know, my Social Security number. And so there's a lot of people just don't know.
No.
And I think that's just industry wide, not just realtors, but anybody attached to the industry.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how they operate. It's just, you know, we'll figure it out at the end of the year, and whatever happens. So those people are the ones that come this time of year. They just do a lot of setting, right? Because if you don't know what your money is, you don't know what your budget is, then you don't really know about forecasting your marketing plan, strategic
pipeline.
Plan. You know, what are you going to do each quarter, your client appreciation events, if you're even doing client appreciation events.
Exactly.
You know, all that stuff. So walk us through what you do in a more traditional market, you know, kind of what we're going through now, so to speak, where it just kind of slows down. When do you really start planning for next year?
So we actually start in October. We call it Goldtober.
That's right.
And we really sit down and look at production of the past year first. You still have a little bit left for November, December at that point, so you can kind of forecast what you think will happen in those 2 months. But you have a good idea of where you are at, and that's the first thing to do. Like, find out where your numbers are at that moment, because that's going to help you forecast or figure out for the following year. And I think knowing that number, it's called your GCI, what that number looks like. It's before any money you've paid to your broker, that's the number that's before you've paid a real an assistant or whatever. Anything before splits, it's that number. So whatever your full commission was that went to the office, when you add all those numbers together, that's your GCI. Looking at that, and then maybe look at a multi-year trend report. So that may mean, if you've been in the business for 5 years, looking at what's happened in the past 3 years or the past 5 years. So you can kind of see, did I grow? Was there stability in my business? Like, that will really help you to forecast for what's up next.
So I told you before we got started, you know, I met with a couple of the home inspectors this morning.
Yeah.
We were just talking about similar topic, ironically. And one inspector said, you know, he's 22% down for the year, right, year over year. And, you know, the other home inspector says, wish I was, you know, and whatnot. So how do you, over the last 2 or 3 years, it's kind of been of an anomaly, right? It's the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
So when you're forecasting 2023 and we're in this weird transition time, you know, we could, you know, talk about all that, the nuances of all that all day long. So how are you projecting based on those data points for 2023, because your whole budget is going to be reliant on, you know, because you have paid staff, right?
Exactly.
You know, you have all these events that you want to do and marketing and whatnot. So yeah, how are you, what's your projections for 2023 when you can't really go by, you know, the last couple of years, because it's going to be, there's a high probability it's going to be lower, right?
It will.
Our numbers next year aren't going to be our numbers from last year, 2021, because 2021 was just so, you know, ridiculous.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So,
well, this is what I did. See, we didn't know what 2022 was going to do either.
Right.
So we kind of based our numbers off of, we thought we were going to add a team member, which we did for a little bit, and we knew that would help increase our production, increase our numbers. So we did set a goal to be better than we did this past year. If we're looking now at what to plan for 2023, I mean, you could look at 18 and 19, because that's more of there were more balanced markets then. We're shifting towards a seller's market for sure, but it wasn't like it was in 2021 for
Right.
sure, and some of 2020, the end of 2020. So you could pay attention to those numbers if you were in the business then. I personally didn't look at that, because if you really plan for like shifting your mindset and how you're going to get your business, I feel like you could still meet your goals.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I didn't change. I didn't go, well, I've heard it's going to be a really different year, and I've heard that
Right.
we're going to see a slump in the market, so I'm going to set lower goals because of that. And not that that's a bad thing. You could, because now, one, we don't have a team member, so I could.
Yeah.
I personally didn't, because I really decided where we're going to hone in on when it comes to our lead gen model. And I think that's going to really support our business to another level.
And you can always do, like, I do tiered goals, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's, you know,
Stretch goal.
This is where I want to be.
And then
right?
a mid-year check-in.
Yeah.
So you can always adjust your goal. I mean, I heard once, if your goal doesn't scare you, then it's not big enough.
Right. Right.
So you got to have something at least.
You do. So yeah, that's what I do. You know, it's what, you know, and Courtney doesn't know this yet, but we'll sit down and we'll go over, you know, her goals for marketing. You know, and she already knows come January 1, I'm pushing her out to Nest. Like, this is all you. Like, I'm not going with you no more. She's super excited about it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But she's had, you know, 8 or 10 months of training and being with me, but. You know,
and people have a rapport with her now. They know her. So that helps too.
So we'll sit down and say, hey, we need to be in, you know, 10 new offices this year. That's going to be the goal, right?
Yeah.
You need to get us in 10 offices that we're just not in, whether that's one agent, whether that's everybody.
Right.
You know, that's 10 new offices to be in, because, you know, the work is out there, you know, so like I said, you can beat those goals.
Yeah.
If you set those goals high. But like I said, I think that tiered approach, that way, if you don't come, you know, October next year, you're like, you know what, I'm 40% away from reaching my goal.
Right.
You don't spiral. You
Right.
know? And I think a lot of people do that. I think they set their goals so high that sometimes, I know I'm never going to reach that goal.
Right.
You know, but if you have that mindset that you're not going to reach that goal, that's one thing. But if you're just going in a blind and you don't reach that goal, a lot of people start to spiral.
Right.
Right. It's like, you know, well, I'm done. You know, I
Right.
quit. You know,
Right.
I'm not good at this. So I think a tiered approach is a good idea. That way, where do I need to be? You know, pay the bills.
Which means look at your bills, look at what your numbers, your business expenses for the month.
Yep. Where would I like to be?
Yep.
And then where's that happy medium? You know, where we can feel really good about the year that we've had. So, so when you're talking, how do you set, like for us, we use Monday.com, which is like Trello.
Heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like Trello, but different. But same concepts. We went with Monday. I forget, there was a feature in Monday that we both liked that Trello didn't offer. I don't remember what that feature is now. But we just liked it, so we went with Monday. That's the only real reason. Trello is obviously very popular, but for those that don't know, both of them are just a project management board, right?
Yeah.
So you can put all your projects on there.
Yeah.
So I could put projects in there. I could assign it to Courtney, and you know, all the information, dates that I want it completed by. But we can also create a marketing strategy board.
Okay.
And we're doing it by quarter, first quarter, second quarter, and we're mapping out everything that we're doing per quarter for our marketing strategy.
Yep.
You know, how many podcasts do we want to do?
Yeah.
How many offices a week do we want to visit? You know, what's the other ideas that we have? And then we can put budgets on that stuff. Because I just had a conversation earlier. It's like, do you have a marketing budget? You know, so far it's just whatever we feel like doing, you know, I mean, roughly. But this year we're really going to hammer down on an actual budget.
Yeah.
So what do you do in terms of marketing and setting a strategy?
So funny you should ask. We literally have just been going over this because there's a couple components to this. And we kind of wrote it out like, okay, we're going to have events, we're going to have seminars, we're going to have networking. And we wanted to really be intentional about who we invited to these. So we decided, and the first part was doing the budget model to figure out how much we have to spend in that one category of just, they call the lead generation category, and it's general prospecting and marketing. So in that category, we know what our dollar amount is. So then we translated that into, okay, we know exactly, or a roundabout number of what some of these events have cost us in the past. So let's figure it out. So we've decided to do 2 big events a year. We invite everybody in our database. And right now we're at 1684 in our database. But we have learned that those kind of events, I mean, people's lives are busy. If we get 100 people, we'll be so happy.
But when you're doing that, though, and it could be intimidating, right? How am I going to pay for 1,600 people, right?
Right.
And it takes a couple to realize what you actually got to plan for, right? Because now it's like, well, do I buy too much food? What if I don't buy enough food? But the good thing about that is depending on how many you're doing, it may only be 100 out of 1,600, but the next event may be a completely 75 of them may be different, right? So,
and I've learned also, I learned it's not about the event; it's about everything that's around that event. Mm-hmm. So for us, there's 11 touches that come for each event. So before the event, if they didn't show up to the event, so at the event, we're going to text somebody. And then after the event, if they came or didn't come, we missed you or thanks for coming. Yeah. So there's touches that's like the biggest reason to have an event because it's like a reason to be on the phone to call people.
Yeah, absolutely.
It gives me an excuse to say, hey, did you see our email? Or hey, did you see the Evite for this event or the Eventbrite for this or whatever?
Yeah, and I noticed for your last one, I started getting text messages.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we use Twilio, which is through Command, which is our Keller Williams CRM. Yeah. So that's one way to do it. There's tricky ways with that just because it doesn't say it's not my phone number. So we have to put in there, this is from Christy and Kim, Move Virginia team.
Yeah.
So.
We've been toying around with SMS Magic, I think.
Oh, okay.
But same thing.
Similar concept.
It attaches to our CRM.
Yeah.
We use Zoho.
Okay.
Not a realtor CRM, right? But for the price that we pay, we get a lot out of it. But the point of the text messages is that on our email campaigns, we're at about 46%-ish open rate.
Okay,
which is good. Actually really high.
Yeah, that's really good.
Most is like less than 10.
Right. 25 I've heard is the magic number, to at least have 25%. Yeah. But 46, that's amazing.
Text messages is like a 90+% read rate.
Okay.
So that's why it's becoming increasingly more important to start doing text messages.
Okay.
In addition to, right? But because everybody checks their phone, even if I don't read the text message, like I saw it, right? Something, right? And whatnot. So that's what's really important is text messages because it's a 90+% read rate. So.
The trick we're struggling with on that is that people are unsubscribing, and we know that we get it. They don't want to hear from us through text, but we don't want to have them miss out on an event that we might have, and then they don't get invited to that type of thing. So we're really trying to find the happy medium on that.
So when you see somebody unsubscribe, does it hurt your feelings a little bit?
I don't know, actually.
Right?
It hurts mine.
I would prefer not to know.
Yeah, I'll log in. I'm like, what do you mean 3 unsubscribed? Who is that?
Why? I feel like I need to call him. Was that an accident?
Emailed me a response back to the newsletter email thing that just said, stop.
Okay.
Dang, okay.
And for me, it's kind of ironic, right? Because realtors spend your entire life cold calling and emailing people
on your phone.
So I do the same thing, and you get mad at me, right? So
I don't mind getting touches from vendors because I feel like I could probably find some content in there that I could use and repost it or put it in my newsletter, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I've had several agents, we haven't gotten into, I keep telling Courtney, well, I'm going to start doing blogs, but I've been saying that for a year now. But we're
marketing goal.
That's right. But I've been getting better at the newsletter thing.
Yeah.
And part of that's going to be adding blogs, but I've had agents say that they've copied and pasted for their own,
it's
information
great.
and whatnot. So yeah, it's very valuable.
It is. To me, it is.
Yeah, but it's just.
I read them.
Yeah.
It has Courtney's name on it. That's why I read it. If it had Sid's name on it, I don't know if I'd read it.
Well, I do that on purpose because I don't want people emailing me or calling me. So Courtney's your point of contact for that. So.
That's why I get them all.
Yeah. So when do you do by quarter or are you doing by month or for your marketing goals?
So when we sat down this past week when we finished our lead gen model, we mapped it out for the year. And then we have this big calendar on our wall, and then we color code which events are going to be an education seminar, a networking. We have like these, we call them micro events, where we have a local business here where we've gotten like 5 referrals from one person, and we have like a whole team that we've helped buy and sell houses with. So we are taking like that whole group to a happy hour.
Yeah.
And then I used to be a teacher, and so we're going to do like a teacher happy hour. So we're finding these like little micro events to do where it's going to be a smaller group of people, but then we even them out quarterly.
Okay.
So those are like distributed. So if you look now at our events, there's something every month, except for I think September, because we've learned September is just too hard with school.
Really?
Going back to school.
Yeah.
So we try not to do anything in September. And with sports, people are just getting back into fall sports. So it's really hard. We've also learned that Sunday afternoons are a great time to plan an activity.
Yeah. So I didn't think about this, but you just brought it up. So how do you manage? Because you got 3 boys, all in sports, right? Very athletic, very, all over the place in terms of that. So, your husband works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you, because this is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
Just planning this stuff's a lot of work. Right?
I have to say, planning it, I don't do any of it anymore. Kim is wonderful. So she plans everything from setting up the catering, setting up the invitation, mailing everything out. Like I just show up to the event. That's the best part for me. Thank goodness for her. Yes, that is wonderful.
Does she give lessons?
She's like an event coordinator on the side. No, I'm just kidding. She would totally help you. She actually likes that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's just then we have too many in a row. It can be a little bit overwhelming. Sure. So like for this past one, I did miss the finals of my kids' soccer tournament because we had a client appreciation event. So there are times that it's just going to happen in my life.
It's hard.
It is very hard.
I got roped into helping coach Jordan softball.
Okay.
Because the one coach moved up and the other coach was like, games on Sundays, I work Sundays, So I told the coach, I said, hey, I can help out on Sundays. I plan on being there.
Right.
And then next thing you know, I'm out there every day. Right. But for the most part, part of having a team is I get to be able to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Now. But the Keller Williams family picnic happened on like the last regular season game,
Oh yeah.
So
my kid was I literally at that picnic, luckily I planned the picnic. So I picked where it was located, which was right next to the baseball fields.
Yeah.
So I literally set up, went over to the baseball fields to watch some of a game, came back, went back and got my kids. Yeah. So there's just.
So it doesn't matter. I mean, you still, when you have a family or you're, like especially kids that are busy and whatnot, with different activities, you just don't know the game schedules, the practice schedules.
Right, not that early. I mean, we're planning now for next fall. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But we have really figured out that Sunday afternoons are really a great time. Saturdays are just really hard. People have stuff going on, especially around the holidays. That's a hard one too. So, and then for like our networking and happy hour events, we do it during the week. Yeah. And it's like 2 hours on a Wednesday or Thursday. We figure that out.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about, doing like a happy hour type thing. And, Jolene's.
We're going to use them too this year.
Yeah.
For an event.
Yeah.
That place is awesome.
So that's what we were talking about doing just during the week.
Yeah.
Because nothing wrong with it, but you see there's some realtors that put together some happy hours, but they're typically on the other side of Richmond. Right. There's really nothing on our side of Richmond.
Right.
So, and there's lots of agents in Newtown.
We're going to actually have our big event there this year. You know what we're doing?
What are you doing?
So they have a food truck every Saturday and Sunday there, and we're going to utilize that and partner with the food truck, let them know who we are.
Nice.
And hire a photographer and do family photos out there.
Nice.
And mini sessions. So people sign up for a block of time. They're in and out, but then they can go eat from the food truck, and we'll have wine out there, and so they can do that too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's going to be that's our big event that we invite everyone to, because think of the overhead on that. It's not that bad. The planning, nothing. Like that's a no-brainer right there.
Yeah.
Your photographer, they sign up, they're in and out, they go get to eat. You're not having to prep food, clean up, anything. So that's an easy event.
Yeah.
I think it could go really well. And I've heard good things about having an event like that. And plus, you get a chance to actually sit and talk with someone for like 10 minutes, because while the kids are eating or they've ordered their food, you can hang out and talk. It's hard at bowling and Topgolf to do that kind of thing. I mean, you're like running around like a chicken with your head cut off on those kind of things.
That's what you really got to learn how to balance or figure out, because there's a lot of cool things you can do.
You can.
But is it the best? You want to do something that's thoughtful for your audience, right? Appreciation stuff, but you also want to be able to engage with it,
right?
Because you're trying to still build or leverage that relationship.
Absolutely.
And you know, bowling was, I could imagine, was probably tough. Because
it was loud.
Yeah.
I mean, you're stretched thin because you've got a group way down there and you have groups over here. So, and the parents are trying to focus on their kids and not hitting each other and throwing balls at each other.
So you really got to be intentional, even though, you know, there's some really cool things and places to do. Is it the most conducive to the business? Because at the end of the day, you're still doing this because it's a business decision, right?
And I will say, because of where we are predicting the market's going to go, we are strategically picking events that are going to be less in cost, because we feel like we've set a budget for lead gen, for that general prospecting marketing, but we know that could be easily affected by the market too. So we want to pick activities that aren't going to cost us $6,000 to $8,000 anymore, because we know that we may need to have saved that money in different areas.
Yeah. So you started in October. When are you really wrapping up, knowing that throughout the year you're going to be revisiting and tweaking and changing? And
we want to be done before Christmas. Yeah. So we're done. We just finished. Probably we have one more thing to do, which would be our social media plan. So lead gen for us includes our events, all of our events, our social media plan, and then figuring out how those events relate to touches. So we also do 4 print mailers a year too. So like direct mail marketing, 4 of them, 4 touches a year. And that goes to all clients past and present and our entire sphere.
Nice.
So that is part of our lead generation 36 touch. Although right now it's not 36 touch anymore. They say it should be like 62 touches a year you should be making to your sphere. So but because of having these events, remember, there's like 11 touches around one event. If you're really honing in on those events and calling the people that you should be, then you should be good. You should be getting those touches in.
And that's, and that's just because of the attention spans have gotten shorter over time, right? Because, it used to be 5 to 7 touches to get somebody to remember you from a business standpoint, right? And now, they say it could be anywhere from 15 to 21 touches.
19 to connect is what they call it. 19 to connect.
So for your sphere, like you're saying, it's gone from 32 to
36 to 62. Yeah. Gary Keller said that. I was like, oh my gosh. But if you really sat down and added it up between your 12, we do the video newsletter. And we found that video works really well. So our monthly newsletter is a video, and that's like what they see. It's the same layout every month, so they can like scroll through it if they want to, but there's always going to be a video with me on it, just talking about the market a little bit, upcoming events, anything new about our listings or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, and that's just where we're heading, that's why TikTok is so popular. That's why Facebook is struggling because they're trying to make a shift into the short videos, and they just haven't figured out how to capture the audience like TikTok has, and even on YouTube and whatnot, so the videos is where it's at. Cause even me, like, I'm almost 40, in a couple weeks, and, I'll start reading and
I said baby, you said old.
This is what I deal with. She said working here is like working for like her uncle's company.
Oh,
there's a bunch of old people around here.
Yeah, so I told my mom. She's like, "How do you like working there?" And I was like, "Well, I feel like I'm working with like my dad and a bunch of his friends, and, like my grandpa."
Great.
Yeah. And Gordon's the grandpa, by the way.
I ask him where his life alert is all the time.
Oh my gosh!
Gotta make sure he has that on
terrible.
him.
See, it's been like 6 episodes since we made fun of Gordon because he says you gotta stop doing that. I don't even forgot where we was going with that, but you just gotta get the touches.
Gotta get the touches.
I knew where I was going with that. So even when I read an article, if it's not, doesn't really get my attention, even sometimes when it does, like after like 2 paragraphs, like I'm done.
Yeah.
Go to the next one.
Bullet points are great.
Yeah. Somebody will put this big long post like, man, I'm friends with them. I really like them. I'll start reading them. That's really interesting. All right, next.
Done.
I'm
Yeah.
done. I hope whatever you're writing about works out.
Right.
But I'm moving on. So, if I'm like that,
Right.
I already know what Courtney's attention span is.
Exactly.
It's horrible.
I mean,
It
that
is horrible.
generation is just.
Yeah.
So something that I've seen people do for like studying for their exams this go around, videos on TikTok of like the Reddit threads of people like reading off.
Yeah.
They have the like the computer voice reading it and then like Subway Surfer or like Minecraft playing underneath it. So people have started putting like 3-hour Minecraft video parkour and then having the article, whatever they're trying to study above it with the computer. Yeah.
And we wonder why kids are ADHD.
Right. Yeah.
That is crazy.
I've seen
They all
that a
need to
couple
read
times.
the one thing. Focus on one thing.
Yep, I've seen that.
Crazy.
Seen that a couple times on my TikTok feed of students doing that.
Wow.
Does it work? I don't know.
Anyways.
So when do we finish? We should be done by now, so that January. Okay. And you'll hear, I was just on a call yesterday with this group that I'm a part of, and everyone talks about like goal setting is so awesome. Like, yes, this is great. And then January comes and you're like, wheels are falling off the bus.
That's right. That's right. It's already coming apart.
What do we have to do?
Yeah.
Where are we going now? So I really try to jump back in the office. Definitely take some time off for Christmas. But like a couple days of December, like the last of December, I'm in the office just kind of like, okay, we've already started. We have a tab. We use OneNote for just our like keeping all of our notes and stuff. Okay. And we have a tab for pipeline, listing pipeline and active buyers. So our listing pipeline, those people are being touched regularly, like weekly regularly to be like, okay, we know that I know I need to close 4 deals a month. Right. So if that's the case, then where I got to start like now because I got to have something for January. And then I am notorious for being so slow January, February, even March. Yeah. Because what happens? Everybody takes time off. They've made their goals. Yes, we're done here. Moving on. So that's what we're really focusing on is like, okay, like even my coach was telling me like, okay, she's already questioning me like, well, this is what you put on your GPS, which is like your big goal sheet. Yeah. And I'm like, thinking in my head, but that's for 2023. We're still in 2022. That's right. But really, you should be thinking about that already. Yeah. So,
especially in real estate, because I mean, it's I mean, if you start January 2nd and you're trying to get 4 closings, well, that
means nothing's going to happen until mid-February.
Exactly. So, do you just focus on 2023 at this point, or are you looking beyond that at all?
That's a great question. I honestly don't, but like on paper, I do. I set a 5-year goal and a 10-year goal. So do I have anything else besides that? No.
Right.
I think it's good to have it. I think I probably should be more intentional about it. But honestly, I think it's hard enough for me to focus on 1 year at a time. But it is like, it's kind of cool to think. If I did do a 5-year goal and it didn't change, because I feel like sometimes those change too. And I kept it somewhere, it'd be cool to go back and look. Oh, I got that one. Oh, we did that. That
cool. And, getting into like strategic planning, which is your 5-year vision, your 10-year vision, and things like that. And I think this is backed by no research at all, but we should probably, tailor that back, to maybe a 3 and a 5 year, just because things change so fast now, right?
For sure.
10, 15, 20 years ago, yes, let's set a 10-year goal where we want to be. Not saying you still can't do that, but things change so fast and evolve so fast now that by the time you hit 5 years, your 10 years is just, it's not even, on the same book anymore.
No,
because so much has changed. So I think it needs to be recalibrated to more of a 3-year plan and a 5-year plan. But strategic planning is, and I always tell people when we start talking about like mission, vision, and values, right? You got your mission statement. Your mission statement is who you are right now. You know, what do we want to do? You know, your vision is where you want to be in 5 years, or 3 years, or whatever. Where do we want to go? And our mission is our mission statement is how we get there, right? Our core values is how we get there.
Yeah.
Right? That's how we're going to achieve our vision. Some companies set it as something that you're never going to achieve. You're always chasing your vision, and that's cool, right? I mean, you can do that. But again, it goes back to, do you have to have something to achieve, or are you going to be in a tailspin if you don't achieve it? But you got to have that strategic plan on how you're going to get to that 5-year plan, right? That 5-year, that vision, how are you going to achieve that? So if you don't have an actual strategic plan in place, then you're never going to even come close to achieving that vision of where you want to be, you know? So if your vision is to be, top agent in all of Metro Richmond, you know, whatever that vision is, you know, whatever realtor would say, you know, you got to have a plan to get there.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to go back and adjust it and tweak it because things change. And I think the industry's gotten a lot better, minus, 80% of a room raising their hand and not knowing where their money's at. I think there's a lot more business-oriented people now than there's ever been. But I think we're still at the first step, which is, end of the year, we're goal setting, we're planning for next year, but what's beyond next year?
Right.
And some of that also involves contingency plans, because what if?
Yeah, what if?
How do we pivot, versus, well, rates went up, market took a nosedive, now what do we do?
Right, right. We weren't prepared for this.
Yeah. So that's just me rambling about the importance of a strategic plan and looking beyond just this year, but what's our overall marketing strategy moving forward, and how does all that fit into the business that we've both established? It's easy for me to say, and maybe mine might be a little bit easier to achieve, maybe just because it's home inspections, right? It's still a business like an electrician, so my 5-year plan may be expanding into the beach, or Charlottesville, or, teams in real estate can do that as well, right? Which is not as common, right? You stay more local, right? To where, we can, if we have that desire, our plan is to move out and expand that way. So, or expand services, right? Yeah. Termites and, radon, mitigation, chimney. Yep. So yeah, like I said, I think a lot of it has been good to see more people talk about this stuff, and actually sit down and talk about goal setting and market plans and budgeting and all that stuff.
Yeah, I tried to do that. I save lead gen for last because it's the most fun.
That's right.
I always leave that one last because the numbers part, if on the disc, I have literally no C in me. So. That's right.
But yeah, I think the next step is definitely, even if it's just in the back of your head, like, where do you want to go? Because me personally, like, I'm not going to be crawling. I probably will, but I don't want to be in crawl spaces when I'm 60. Right. So what's that plan, to get me out of that?
Yeah.
And whatnot. So,
Colin.
I know, right?
That's what I'm relying on. I'm like, of 3 of my kids, there's going to be someone's going to hate real estate after all this. I'm never going to another property ever again. Yep. But there's got to be one of the 3 that are going to be like, I think I could see myself doing that.
That's right. Well, awesome. Do you have any closing thoughts?
I think having a plan. I think it's so important. Whether you're new or not, have a plan. If you're new, start with the 50% if you can afford to do that. I think if you could just save the 50% of each of your checks that you receive, then you're not, oh crap, come end of year or April or having to file extensions, all of that. What do I do? Hire a good CPA. Hire someone that knows small businesses, that knows real estate. I think that's super important too, because they're going to know way more than you do on tax breaks and what you need to spend and where you need to spend and where you need to cut, all of that. Yep. And then have a plan. Like, look at your models, look at creating the budget, knowing where you spent your money last year so that you can project where you're going to spend your money this year. Your lead gen plan. I mean, organization model. Do you have plans to grow? Like all of those things. You want to have a plan. So
and make sure it's visible and accessible.
Yes.
Right. Not just it's in my head.
So
it's just rolling around.
What's really cool is the planner that I have has me write every month at the beginning of the month what my goals were. So I have annual, monthly, weekly goals, and so I'm just writing them every month. At the beginning of every month. Now, obviously, the annual goal doesn't change. Yeah. Your monthly goal may, and your weekly goals will. So I'm just copying from the month before on the annual, but it's still making me look at it too. Yeah. So if you, print it out. Print out your 411 or your GPS, which are, I know Keller Williams terms, but those are what your goals are, the ways you're going to get to those goals, the strategies to get to those goals, your priorities to reach those strategies. So those kind of things.
And that's important to emphasize because we can all set goals, right?
Right.
But you got to have a strategy and a plan to achieve those goals. Because if you start off in January 1 and you say, I want to close 4 deals this month. All right. Well, how are you going to do that? What do you mean? I'm just going to do it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So you really got to start breaking it down into the micro at that point of where am I going to get these leads from? How am I going to get them? How much money is it going to take me to get them? I saw a broker the other day post their top agent has closed 13 deals in the last couple of months. And when you put phone calls in the last however many, it was like 2,000 contacts added into their database. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, my goal could be 13 closed deals, but how are you going to get there?
Right.
So you got to strategize and you got to market and have that plan in place.
Yeah. And there's like math. There's like in the business plan book that Keller Williams puts out, there's a, what is it called? Like it's this math problem that you can put together on how many people are in your database, how many appointments you need based on how many what your goal is. So you figured out what your goal is for units on how many you want to sell. And then you take what yours currently in your database and what you've created out of what's currently there, and you figure out what you need to add to it to get to that new goal.
Yeah.
So you that's important. You have to know that because it told me we believe it or not are only 300 away from where we need to be on people we need to add to our database. But last year we added 1,003 people to our database. Yeah. Now a lot of those are realtors, but you do realize that realtors are referrals too. Yep. So that is one of our biggest sources of business is realtor referrals, which is awesome for us. So we keep up with those realtors and they are part of our database, and that's included in our numbers because of that. Yeah. So
good times.
Good times.
Good times. Well, I appreciate it. I think this was a good session. I think it's important. Like I said, slow time. Holidays are here.
Right. Now's the time. Yeah, knock this out.
Business isn't still happening, but this isn't the time just to take a break.
No,
right?
Not at all.
There's still a lot of work to prepare for the next year. So you're not waiting until May to get that first deal.
Yeah, they say that December 31st or January 1st could be the busiest day of the year for you in real estate because people put their listing appointments to expire December 31st. Mm-hmm. So if you can get a hold of the list of all of the expired listings that come up on January 1st and reach out to them. Now, in the past 3 years, that really hasn't been a thing. Right. But I think we're going to start seeing that happen more. Yeah. And those are great listings to go after right off the bat. Yep. So if you can get off your butt and work January 1st,
that's right.
There you go.
Get out of bed.
Get out of bed.
Find your clothes.
Right.
Well, awesome. Well, that concludes another episode, and looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.